Looking back on the past 7 months, we built like one of the fastest sun-powered race cars in the world, and a team to race it in 7 months. It was incredibly intense, but the payoff was extraordinary.
Tens of thousands of hours we poured into developing this car. The countless vehicle configurations we iterated through, a lot of re-examining the bigger picture, focusing on systems architecture, and also looking at how things would come together. The result of this process was the car with the fastest theoretical race time in Michigan solar car history.
It was extremely inspiring to take what was in your brain and to put it in real life. That CAD is accurate to the micrometer, right? And so you need to match that in real life with your craftsmanship and with your attention to detail.
A solar car like ours, so much of it is carbon fiber composites. And for Roush, we usually had quite a large group of people there. And the working hours were pretty rough at times. We had a lot of fun doing it. We had a lot of fun working with the different Roush employees. I know I certainly learned a lot while I was there, and I think everyone else did. I think pretty much all of the major components turned out better than I expected them to. I think the chassis in particular came out extraordinarily well, and was incredibly exciting when we took that one out. And it was just absolutely unbelievable to kind of pick it up and feel how lightweight it was, and how well made the part was. So, because it had been a long month of manufacturing all the molds and all the first parts. Kind of getting that first success, that first part out, really motivated everybody, and was like, wow, this is what the end product looks like. This is fantastic. This is culmination of so much hard work. Like, I really want to make sure our next ones turn out just as good. I think we made a lot of great strides in our composites designs and manufacturing this year that I hope kind of continue into the future, with the next generation car and the next generation team, that they can kind of build off what we've done this year and hopefully do it even better next time.
When Astrum drove for the first time under her own power, she got about a meter, then she immediately broke, but it was still extremely exciting to know that Astrum had done her first meter of many millions of meters. The testing schedule every year sort of goes in 3 levels. We start with track testing. We bring the car out to the track, and they don't work perfectly on the first time, which is why we have multi-days, where we just go out for a single day, several days in a row, bringing the car out into public roads. And then finally we have mock race.
The first drives with Astrum on the track actually felt really good because we didn't have the upper on, and so it was cool. And there wasn't any weight up high, so the body roll was really small, and Astrum was really stiff because there wasn't a lot of weight in it yet. And so it feels really good, particularly when you're doing higher speed turns. And as weight got added up top, it got gradually harder and harder, but still very doable.
There was a pretty bad structural failure on the hub. Kind of the way the wheel hub mounts to the rim, the main holding system for the rim, and in such a way like the wheel literally could have just fallen off. He was able to pivot really fast, find the issue, redesign a part, get the part, remachined and back on the car, and kind of, record speed, which was great, kind of able to come together and figure that out.
But all in all, I think it ended out pretty well for us, because we spent the next 2 days after that kind of really fixing up the things that we found during multi-days that was not working so well. I know from the first multi-day to our last multi-day, we went from having to power cycle the car 50 some times to only once, over the course of a full day of driving. And that is, that's a big deal. That's a huge improvement.
We set out for a Michigan mock race, and that wasn't without challenges either. The first day, there was a lot of rain near Ann Arbor and a lot of rain along our planned route. We decided to pivot to an old mock race route that we used the year prior. And that went flawlessly, despite losing a day of racing because we had to trailer up to the start point. We managed to run more than 600 kilometers flawlessly over the course of 2 to 3 days, and really give the drivers a lot of seat time, debug a lot of systems, and give the team a lot of confidence in their ability to be successful.
We had all these hardships and challenges and all that stuff with the hub, but now the vehicle was great, and we were looking really fantastic, and things were going to go up from here. We were going to close out this mock race, do a little track testing, pack it away, go to Australia, do some testing, and just be ready to compete at the World Solar Challenge.
Yeah, so we crashed Astrum. I was able to come up with the lovely nickname Crashtrum. The crash itself was pretty scary. Kind of being the first on site, I remember running to that car and I had no idea what to expect. And I was so terrified of what might be inside, what kind of dangers could be lurking inside of our battery, or what kind of damage we might have done to the car, what kind of condition Ethan was in.
So our driver decided to take this turn a bit quickly.
That segment of mock race was actually the same as the segment from the previous year, which I had also driven with Avon. So I was somewhat familiar with the roads. The roll itself was not the worst thing in the world. It was pretty tame. I'm sure everyone in lead and chase had a pretty big heart attack.
I was in the back of lead when the car rolled. That was really scary.
The tip was pretty slow from the inside, and also I was very well secured inside the car, and so I didn't really move or feel much. And with how small our canopy is, there's not really much room for my head to move at all either, because it's kind of just jammed in there.
I think as a crew chief, I've been a lot more cautious since then. And I think generally making mistakes makes people more cautious, more on edge for the future.
But I also think that our team's response was exactly as it should have been. We all immediately knew what to do. Ethan was out of the car in less than a minute, and the battery was out less than 30 seconds after that, and nothing went wrong with the battery, which is really good. So yeah, I'm really proud of the entire team for how we handled that.
When we came to Australia, I was very nervous to see the car drive again.
At the end of the day, you need a brilliant solar car, but you also need a team that can race that car. So Australian Mock was our opportunity to understand what it was like to be in the outback and what it was like to race a car.
There was just all this pressure because we didn't know how was the vehicle going to do on the cattle grids, what was going to happen when a road train came by, and we'd seen the road trains coming up, and they were no joke.
And we were stationed out in Glendambo for 5 or 6 days on end, and Glendambo was not my favorite place in the world. Hot, there was a billion flies everywhere, there was just dirt in everything you own, and that was pretty brutal. The big issue that we ran into on mock race though was actually in our chassis.
So we took it in stride, and it was okay, we're going to cancel this day, we're going to fix this, we're going to do it right, and then we're going to get out tomorrow, and it's no longer going to be a 4-day mock, it's going to be a 3-day mock. We were able to get out there, and that following day the vehicle did well, and all things considered, it was a pretty good day. And we finished the last day just driving really hot, and then we drove basically from Coober Pedy up to the border with the Northern Territories, and it was a great day, and the car was fast, we didn't have any major issues, and I think that was really good kind of for the morale. And
we headed to Darwin just to work at the Hidden Valley Motorsports Complex. We got to our paddock, pit number 1, and got right to work building the final parts of Astrum, preparing her and testing her. The Hidden Valley Motorsports Complex has a racetrack and a series of paddocks for race car teams. So we were at Hidden Valley for about 2 weeks preparing Astrum, and then eventually we got the chance to race Astrum around the track against all the other teams.
Hidden Valley was fantastic. I had been dreaming of seeing all the other solar cars since I joined the team in 2020, and it was just so cool.
We knew, looking at the other teams, we had a lot of work to do, and immediately we got after that array install, and there was some other debugging we needed to do on the vehicle, and it was just kind of go time.
Static scrutineering was really successful, but the fundamental challenge is dynamic scrutineering.
Dynamic scrutineering is the inspection of the vehicle in motion, in a sense. In addition to testing the stability of the vehicle through tests like completing a figure 8 and weaving through a slalom course of cones with the car and conducting a braking test, another part of dynamic scrutineering is also the hot lap, where you drive a singular lap around the Hidden Valley Raceway track, trying to go as fast as you possibly can. And the importance of the hot lap is that the teams with the fastest times will start ahead of the teams with the slowest times.
So it was definitely nerve-wracking. I guess the hot lap had been one of the things that I'd been looking forward to for a while, because it's one of the only times that you really get to take your car that you built and kind of go for speed more so than endurance.
There's tons of media there. It's, in some ways kind of the final qualification to get on the road, but in other ways it's just this big kind of celebration and party. And we showed up, we're playing music, we had a good breakfast, and there's all this energy, and it's super exciting. Everyone's super jazzed, and there's not a ton of work to do because everyone's just kind of waiting to get out on the track. And we know we had to pack the container, but it's like we'll get through this dynamic, we'll pack the container, and we'll get a good night's sleep, and we'll be ready to start. And we knew our vehicle wasn't going to be the fastest, but we thought maybe we'd qualify somewhere around 10th, maybe a little faster, maybe a little slower. Everyone's super excited, and Ethan, the hot lap driver, gets in the car, and there's all this energy. We're all out there banging on the boards, and I'm up in the tower, and we're all cheering him on, and everyone's super jazzed. And he takes off, and the way it works is you do one warm-up lap and then you go into the hot lap. So he takes off and he's building speed, and there's a little bit of a hill at Hidden Valley kind of halfway through, and he starts to climb this hill, and all of a sudden you can just see the vehicle slow down. And we're all a little nervous, we don't know what's going on. We have this thing called a micro reset when we just kind of restart the car, and someone over the radio tells me to do that, and he's like, it's not turning on. And so I'm up in the pits, and I'm in the pits there, and they put all kind of the top teams together. So there's Leonard from Delft, and there's Kirsten from Tente, and Cedric from Inoptis, and everyone's kind of looking around, and I'm looking at the radio, and it's just like what is going on? And I tell the track controller, like, we have to go off, and he's like, you can't go off, you need, the car won't work, we have to go off. And then it's like, now what? We don't know what to do. We don't even know if we're going to be able to do another hot lap, or be able to finish the dynamic scrutineering to qualify. And so half the team goes with the car, half the team's just kind of standing around like, what the f do we do? And I go up in kind of the management office and try and find someone to tell me what to do, and they're like, you didn't have a good hot lap? Oh, that's fine. You can't redo it. I'm like, no, we weren't able to do it. And, so eventually, we're able to talk to the right person, and they tell us, you have to qualify. You're going to start last. You can't redo the hot lap, but you still have to do your dynamic scrutineering part. And, we got back out there and we did the dynamic scrutineering with no issues, and we passed. So, that felt pretty good. That was a relief. And then, kind of the team had this idea, and it was like, let's do one hot lap. It's not going to be worth anything, but we just want to get out there and kind of get that experience. And, so I went up in the tower and asked Vince, the track guy, and he's like, yeah, that's okay. There's a break in the action right now. So if you guys just want to go out, the time won't mean anything, but you can go out and do that. So, everyone once again got back out there, got excited. The flags were waving, we're banging on the boards. There's a ton of energy, and Ethan gets in the car, and the car peels out of pit lane, and we go back up on that hill, and the same thing happens. Now we're all looking at one another like, we don't know what's wrong. We don't, are we even going to be able to drive tomorrow? Are we going to get to the start line and hit the throttle paddle, and the vehicle's going to blow, and we're not, are we going to be able to finish this race? And there was still a lot of packing and work to be done, but it all kind of ground to a halt because, the vehicle wasn't ready, and who cares if the container's packed if we don't have a car. And, once again, I think we were all really frustrated and bummed out and disappointed at the way the hot lap went. And, we kind of needed this second one to go smooth, and it was just a disaster.
I was pretty freaked out. If the car won't turn on, there's a high chance that that's something on my circuits that's broken. What happened there is we blew a fuse on the micro side. So we're not 100% sure why that happened. We do know that it's because of the motor controller. Only because all of our testing, it only blows when we're torquing the motor really, really high. Like upwards of 4 kilowatts, which is much more than we'd ever want to see on an actual race. That's kind of why we only started to see it on the hot lap, because that's when we're pulling those high torque numbers.
So day one of race, I got a call at like 4 in the morning, and there were too many vehicles left at Hidden Valley and not enough drivers. So Jack picked me up at 4 in the morning, and we went back, and he dropped me off, and I grabbed one of the cars. But the whole time we're sitting in the weather car when we're driving back to Hidden Valley, and he hadn't slept that night. He had been working, and we're just so nervous that are we going to be able to leave? Is the car going to work? Is the car going to work? And I don't even think we knew or were that frustrated with our starting position at that time, because we didn't even know if we were going to be able to leave Darwin on our own power. So we all lined up, and all the top teams were lined up kind of far away from us, and we were in the back with the other teams who had struggled on the hot lap, and it was a little bit disappointing, but at the same time we didn't know if the car was going to work. So we started 32nd on the grid on day one. The teams leave approximately 1 minute apart, but another team had an issue and it kind of delayed us, so we ended up leaving at approximately 8:41, which is 41 minutes behind Sonnenwagen Aachen, the team who had left first for the day. But we got out there and all was well.
I was the start line driver, and we started in 32nd place. I don't really remember most of the passes because a lot of the teams were on the side of the road, and we did the swap, and I got in lead, and I knew that we'd passed a few teams on the road in, because we had overtake lanes, and I remember seeing 4 or 5 cars that we passed. But when I got in after the driver swap, I thought we were maybe in 12th, 13th, but we were so many cars in front of that.
I was refreshing my phone the entire day. I was up in the scout vehicle, so I didn't directly see Astrum, but I would just see 22nd place, 21st place, 20th, and so on and so forth. And we ended up overtaking 26 cars in one day. That's mind-boggling still.
The energy in the car as we were doing pass after pass after pass was unmatched. I don't think Chase came together like it did until we started passing those cars.
I think in Catherine we were in 8th place. 8th place after the first couple hours of driving, and it was we're in this, and you could just see the team, everyone was still nervous, but we were starting to get excited and have it be real. And then that night we came into Dunmara, and we had moved into 6th place. We had just passed Top Dutch and Coca-Cola, and everyone was like, oh wow, we're really in this, this is so exciting. And I think we were all kind of thinking, man, this isn't where we should be up ahead if we hadn't started where we had. The next morning we left from Dunmara, and I think we kind of felt or knew that Coca-Cola and Top Dutch, the 2 teams we had passed, we could put some kilometers on, and we were really chasing after Tokai and Sonnenwagen, who were in front of us. And the other teams didn't know it, but we knew that our battery was in a great spot, and we were just ready to go. We didn't end up catching Tokai or Sonnenwagen until day 3. At the end of day 2, we ended right with Tokai and Tai Tree.
The haze didn't help. It was really smoggy. There was a lot of forest fire smoke in the sky, which was a disadvantage when other teams had gotten far ahead of that. But I think the energy and hopes were still high.
But I think we knew coming into day 3 that we were just ready to go. We passed Tokai early in the morning, and then Sonnenwagen after Alice Springs. I think I was a little overwhelmed with emotion when that happened, and we passed those teams. There was just so much pride, and it felt like we had really kind of made it at that point, and we really belonged at the World Solar Challenge and where we were. And we were excited. We weren't sure if it was possible, but we were excited looking ahead at Brunel, and wondering if we might be able to chase them down.
For me, passing Sonnenwagen was one of the highlights of my drive in the World Solar Challenge. It was pretty great to pull out of a control stop about 1.5 to 2 minutes behind them, have to pull over, do some repairs, do a tire change as well, and just speed past them at 25 kph. And it just really showed the capabilities of the car and the capabilities of the team to run the car effectively.
Coming into the end of day 4, at this point the places are pretty solid. You know, by the end of day 4, you're either too far in the front to care, or you're vying for moving up a place, and so you've drained your pack right to 0%, and then you're going to spend the night charging up and take that charge with you into the end of the race. And for pretty much all top 4 teams, I think that's what happened. And you know, we knew we were at 0%. We knew Brunel was probably at 0%, and we expected them to get a little bit of a better charge because they were further south, and the days are longer further south. They were also about 90 kilometers ahead of us, and we were only about 300 kilometers from the end of the race. So we were basically counting on them to make a mistake if we wanted to pass. And we were ready to pounce, but Brunel's a solid team. As far as I know, they've only made one mistake in about 2 decades of solar racing. So it was low odds, especially because they were coming off that mistake, and we knew they wouldn't try to repeat it again. So we were ready to pounce, but there was no mistake to be had. So yeah, we came into the finish line with a ton of energy left in our battery pack. There was some question of, should we go faster? And going faster is always just a tiny bit riskier, and we knew we weren't going to get caught, so we figured, let's just make sure we end in the place we've earned, and hell, it was a place to earn. We had to pass 28 teams to get there. But that night, that day 4 night, it was really exhilarating, crunching all the numbers, seeing just how fast can we go. I think our final calculation said we could take the final day at 133 kph, and with like 0.1% in our battery pack. So suffice to say, the speed limit played a pretty big role.
I think there's 2 stages to the race. When we actually finished the race, which felt very underwhelming because it just stopped. It stopped. There was no indication. It just stopped. Terry was in the car, and we got out of the car. And I'm like, oh, it's over. It's over now. It's over? Huh. It just ended.
I think it was a little surreal. It just didn't feel like we were really there. And then, the vehicle rolled up and the team came in, and we got the flag out of the semi truck, and we all boarded the bus and headed up to Victoria Square, and that's I think it really started to sink in, like we had really done it. And we got to the finish line, and we got to take that picture under the banner with the American flag, and it's just awesome.
When we finally crossed the ceremonial finish line, so the car rolled down, popped open champagne and sprayed it in everyone's eyes. Yes, that hurt, but man, it felt good. It's like, we're done. This is over.
Running into the fountain and with the bottles of champagne, and everyone picked me up too. It was pretty fun, and just to feel all the love at the finish line and have it, truly kind of be over. I think some of us are unsatisfied and want more, but for what it was and all the challenges that we had to overcome to end, finishing the race 4th in the world was just fantastic.
After race, it's a great feeling because I know, we really did this, we actually made it. But it's a bit of a melancholy one. I know I might be back in 2025. I feel like we still have unfinished business, and I don't know if that feeling's ever gonna go away until we take home that first place.
Well, one thing I've learned on this year's race crew is that you have to set your ambitions very high, and you should probably set them higher than you think you can manage, and there's maybe a pretty reasonable chance that you actually can manage it. We're coming back in 2025. We're coming back for first place, and we understand what an incredible undertaking that is and the incredible competition that we have. But we're going to do everything we can to build the greatest car in the history of the Stewart Highway, and we're going to stop short of nothing but our best.